Hello, everybody. Just a minute and we will get started as soon as Facebook loads. Didn't have any questions today, so I'm going to share some little personal things today. All right. Here we go. All right, live streaming now. I'm going to share my screen in just a minute. So today I want to talk about the importance of creating space. I know I believe it's the second session is about creating space for change, right? I am creating space for change. And there's so much, I just can't stress enough. It's so important to give ourselves the emotional and often physical space to just let our brains process our emotions and just everything that's going on for us, right? So it's like we have to create that space first to just process our feelings, to process all the events, all the changes, everything that's going on in our lives, big and small. It could just be little things throughout your work week or your family life, or it could be, the bigger, emotional difficulties related to divorce or separation and recovering from the abuse. We want to feel our feelings and give ourselves space for that. But then this idea of creating space for change, we can't move forward and progress without that space as well. So I hope that makes sense. It's like we need space to feel what's going on right now, but then that space is also necessary to move forward. And so I just wanted to share a couple of personal examples from me this week to help you think about this and how this would look in your life. And so first of all, there's a couple of ways we can do this. I'm going to share a couple of examples. One is through just making time for the art or other, self-care or reflective activities. And this can be, it can be something really short. I think kind of what I want to talk about today, it really may be kind of mid-range and then bigger forms of space. So kind of a mid-range is taking an hour or hour and a half to really go through one of the sessions in the redefined process, to give yourself space and time to create the art, to do your reflective writing. So smaller things could be just like a 10-minute, meditation in the morning, just a short kind of check-in with yourself to breathe, in the middle of the day. It could be eating lunch without looking at your phone or without talking to anyone, or maybe just being fully present in a conversation with a friend or coworker during lunch and not being distracted by other things. Okay, those are small ways to create a little bit of space from just the hectic, kind of pressure of the day-to-day. But then sort of a middle range way to create space is to really take that time to do an intentional activity that is going to help you get in touch with your feelings, get in touch with your identity and who you are, and focus on your goals and moving forward. I, of course, attach a spiritual component to this as well. So for me, that is time with my Creator. As a Christian, I view that as God, as Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. But for you, that might be just more of a general sense of a higher power. There's no wrong answer here as far as how you handle this in the redefined process. But I do believe that that sense of quiet and solitude and space to connect with our feelings, I really feel that that's also an opportunity to connect with a higher power, with our Creator, as I say in the program. So I think it's good to have those bigger chunks of time. I'm going to screen share right now with you an example of how I did this today. I was not feeling like it. I was doing my daily morning journaling practice. Hold on a second, I'm trying to screen share. Okay. Screen share photos. I was doing my regular daily morning practice of journaling, which is a very concise thing where I just write certain things. I limit myself to one small journal page. I was doing that and I was feeling some emotions well up. I kind of wasn't even feeling the journaling because I just had some emotions that I needed to express in another way. And I kind of wanted to just push them to the side and not do the art. But actually, I had set out my journal earlier when I'd first walked into my studio this morning or my sketchbook, sorry. I'd set out this sketchbook to sort of prompt me because I kind of felt it coming. And then I sat down and did my journaling. I was like, oh, I don't want to do it, but the sketchbook is right here. So that's one tip to kind of go ahead and set something out. We talk in the beginning, in the welcome sort of section of the program, about designating your space, gathering your materials. So it can be helpful to leave something out if it doesn't stay out all week. To leave it out kind of on a day or a week where you feel like, I think I'm going to need this time later in the week and I might not want to do it. I might need a visual prompt to go ahead and put some of that stuff out. So that's kind of what I did for myself, just like an hour beforehand, was I set my sketchbook out on the table here in my studio. And so sure enough, when I was journaling, I felt some emotions coming up. They needed to come out. And I started with these blue like marker lines that you see in the middle. And from my knowledge of art therapy and symbolism that tends to come up in art therapy, I know that water, it doesn't always, but it can symbolize feelings of depression and sadness. And so as I was drawing these, I was thinking of waves, and I was thinking, oh, there it is. It's my depression. It's my sad feelings today. And that may not be for everybody. I'm just saying this is what came to me. And this is where I've really developed sort of a skill. I think it is a skill of being intuitive in the moment and being able to pay attention to what's going on for me. So often I'll get these insights about what's going on in my picture as I'm working. And I'm sure many of you experience this as well at times. It's not always there, but oftentimes while we're drawing, we're already getting that insight about our thoughts and feelings. If you don't worry about it. That's what the reflective writing process is for, to dig deeper into that. But I was already, drawing these blue wavy lines, thinking this is the sadness. This makes sense. Excuse me. And so I did that. I just, I really found myself in a moment of having to put aside my judgment. Like I tell you all, this is a no judgment zone. Just go with your gut. Just be intuitive, what feels right. And I had a few moments in this drawing where I was like, this is ugly. This isn't what I want to be drawing. And I almost edited myself. I almost like sort of censored my emotions in a way, and kind of cut myself off from what my gut was telling me. But then I didn't. I turned myself back to just what I was feeling, and I just put that down. So next I did, this is all scribble underneath, and I did oil pastel on top, but I did these lines just filling up with blue. The marker was running out. That kind of annoyed me. I switched to some pink at the bottom. I had no idea what any of that was. It just felt like kind of a continuation of the sad feelings that I was having. And then I thought, I need some light. And I took a yellow marker and kind of did some lines. And then I decided that I wanted the oil pastels. Now, I had already had out on the table crayons and markers. And initially I thought I'll draw with markers and then put crayon on top. You don't want to put marker on top of crayon because that doesn't really work well. But you can do pretty much anything on top of markers. And I had a moment, again, I'm going to highlight this because I'm sure you can relate to this in your art making process. And I want you to kind of follow my example of pushing through this when this comes up. I thought, I'll just draw with the crayons. And then I thought, I really want to use an oil pastel. And I thought, no, the crayons are already on the table. But then I was like, no, I really want to draw with the oil pastels. And this is how big our resistance can be sometimes, that the oil pastels are literally not this shelf behind me, but another shelf against the back of this wall that the mural's on. I mean, so close. I was sitting here. It just took a few steps to reach the oil pastels, but I almost didn't do that. I almost didn't go with my gut because I was like, well, the crayons are right here. Why don't I just use those? But if you're feeling the oil pastels, do what you need to do to get the oil pastels. You can press pause on your art making time and go get that. I think part of my reason I didn't want to get up is I was listening to a song. Usually I'm quiet while I draw, but a particular song I wanted to listen to, and I had headphones in, and the phone was not in my pocket. It was on the table. And I thought, I'm going to have to like carry the phone with me. And I don't have the cool, new earbuds. I just have like the cord. I'm attached to the phone. I was like, I'm gonna have to pick up the phone with me, or I'm gonna have to like take out my earbuds or whatever. I mean, I don't have the wireless earbuds is what I meant. I have the earbuds, but it's like attached with a wire to my phone. So even little things like that, and that could sound silly. You might be like judging me like, oh, Jennifer's lazy. I don't think you are, but it wasn't laziness. It's tied into those sad and depressed feelings, a lack of motivation and energy, right? And so you may be feeling this as you sit down to make your art, but I encourage you to still push through that enough to go with your gut as far as what you're feeling like you need to create and what emotions you need to express and release from your body. So I didn't want to take those few steps of getting the oil pastels, but I did, and I'm so glad I did, because that's the sensory experience I was really feeling like that I needed. Which way does this? Okay, yeah. So you can see I took this close-up photo to show like the texture on the paper. I really wanted that. I wanted to experience that sensory feeling, the kinesthetic quality of using the oil pastels and pressing hard, and to have that texture on the paper. So so first I did that with the yellow, and I colored with the side of the yellow to make that really solid. And I was thinking, this is the light coming in. For me, this is my creator, kind of my creator's presence in this moment of my sadness. And I don't know if I've expressed it in this group, but this month and really this whole season of fall is really heavy for me. There's some difficult anniversaries, my mother's death, and then November marks the anniversary of when I left my abusive partner. And that's been many years ago. My mother's death was 10 years ago. The separation it'll be 6 years, but I still feel this heaviness this time of year. And just in general, I think, for those of us, especially that live in climates where we experience a distinct fall and winter, distinct seasons, the fall and winter is a time where we tend to kind of want to retreat more. We can be more introspective, more contemplative. And I try to just embrace that. I used to hate that, like, oh, here comes the fall. I'm going to start getting depressed again. Even before my mother's death, I can struggle sometimes with symptoms of seasonal affective disorder. But now I've come to just to accept and even embrace at times, what this change of seasons means for me. So it means I'm going to have some big feelings coming up, but it also is an opportunity to sit like this and to be quiet and to pay attention to those feelings in a way that I might not do in the busier spring and summer seasons, where I have more energy and I could be more easily distracted. This is a time to really to focus on myself and to allow myself that solitude and that time and space. It's important in the other seasons too, but it seems like it's extra, at the surface now, this need to sit with myself and express and feel my feelings. So I take advantage of that and just recognize this as a season to do that, to focus on that more. And so it was a little bit of a distraction there, a little bit of a tangent, but it certainly relates to what I was feeling this morning and what I'm wanting to model for you. So allow yourself that space to express what you need to express. And so I did the yellow. I was crying at this point, letting out a lot of emotions. And then yeah, with the red, and I want to read for you some or maybe all of my reflective writing. A lot of times I'll write on my sketchbook page with the art. Today I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to look at both these very full pages while I wrote, and I pulled out an index card and I just challenged myself to fill up the index card because I'd already done a lot of thought while I was drawing, and I filled up the card. So you can set yourself a time limit like I suggest in the program, like around 15 minutes if you can, or you can set like a page limit. That can be helpful too. So I wrote, so red for me is symbolic of deeper pain, kind of a lot of it associated with my childhood. And when I started drawing the red on this, I didn't know why that was coming up for me right now. Okay. I didn't know specifically why that was coming up. I knew the emotions I was processing, but I didn't know what it was tied to. So I want to read this, just like I encourage you to share in the Facebook group your reflective writing pieces of it, or just insights you got. I want to model that for you and show you what this writing can look like. Mine just comes out this way. Yours might be different. This was a little less free association, feeling a little less sort of poetic than what normally comes out of me. Usually it's like all this like out there kind of stuff. This was a little more concrete, and that's okay. It might be different for you on different days. So I wrote, that red is so deep. I thought it would just be on the line. I guess initially I thought it would just be on this kind of middle portion where the initial scribbles were. I thought it would just be on the line, but it runs deep. I started with the blue waves, depression, sadness, heaviness, and then the red surprised me. So then I asked the question and I underlined it so I would know this was my question to the artwork, or also to my inner self or to my creator. What are you today? Meaning the red. a longing for connection to something greater, something beyond, and also to a partner. So I realized in writing this that I was feeling kind of a loneliness of wanting like a romantic partner. But then this is what it transitioned into. So I want that safe person to take care of me, a parent or a partner, my person. So I think this relates to the loss of my mother, feeling like I'm a little bit untethered, like I don't have that go-to person who cares for me. And that was bleeding into a desire for a partner. I could write more and talk more and more on that and how that could be a healthy, okay desire, or how it's tied to a feeling of codependency and like I have to find kind of a parent in a romantic partner, which is not healthy, right? We don't need to be looking to our romantic partner as someone to parent us. My ex-husband parented me and not as a good parent, as a condescending, abusive parent. And so I don't want to be looking for subconsciously a parent. So I'm thinking all this as I'm writing this, like I'm realizing this is coming out and like I don't want that. So a longing for connection to something greater, something beyond, and also to a partner. I want that safe person to take care of me, a parent, a partner, my person. I'm feeling like, and this is where I got the insight that this was kind of my childhood stuff coming out. I'm feeling like a little girl floundering with no place to land, that sense of being untethered, floundering. But I am here now, adult Jennifer. So this is where that sort of came to me subconsciously, but it was also where I made a decision in the writing process to show up for myself. Okay. So this is a little different from how my writing normally goes. Like I said, normally it's a little more free flowing and poetic and just what's coming out of my subconscious. And I was allowing that, but then I allowed my conscious adult Jennifer to step into this process because I know from past experience, from my therapist training, but also just experience dealing with my emotions, my childhood Jennifer, my inner child. Um, I need to show up for childhood Jennifer, for little girl Jennifer. And so I made a decision in this moment in my writing to show up for myself, to care for myself, instead of leaving myself untethered, floundering, feeling like I didn't have a partner, like I'm alone, like I don't have a parent, someone to take care of me. I showed up to take care of little girl Jennifer, to take care of myself in this moment where I'm in tears, I'm crying, like I'm really in this childhood feeling of being alone, emotionally alone. So I'm feeling like a little girl floundering with no place to land, but I am here now, adult Jennifer, mature and knowledgeable and trusting in God. I can look to Him, meaning to God, my creator, and look inward to myself, sit with my feelings. I can look inward and sit with my feelings. I am brave. I am that safe space for myself. And then I also wrote, I am that safe space for my daughter, for Deborah. So I am that adult now. I'm stepping into, the ways that my mother was not, we had a close relationship, but she was not able to really care for me emotionally in the ways that I needed. And that was because of her own childhood trauma, her experiences in abusive marriage, etc. She could not fully show up for herself emotionally, or had not done the work to do that. And so she didn't fully show up for me. I was always more of a support to her. And maybe some of you all can relate to that, even to the point where when she was first diagnosed with cancer, I remember just being honest about all the feelings I had. Of course, I was devastated. It was terminal cancer from the first beginning diagnosis. But I also had feelings of anger that here we go again. I had some plans. I was about to start graduate school for the next couple years of my life. And here I am having to take care of mom again. I felt like I was an adult and I was finally kind of free to live my own life. And here I am again. And I knew I wasn't going to not show up for her, right? We had a close relationship. I knew I was going to care for her, which I did for the next few years, almost 4 years before she died. But I had this anger of, ugh, like I have to show up for her again. Where is that person to show up for me? And so now I recognize I show up for myself. I am that person for me, but also I'm breaking that generational pattern of having emotionally immature and unstable and sort of emotionally dependent mothers. I am showing up for my daughter so that she hopefully will not repeat this pattern. I'm a third generation divorced single mom. I don't want my daughter to go through that. So that was hard in the moment to do it. I was sort of feeling it, but I wasn't totally feeling it when I wrote that. And it's the same principle behind, like, the reason why we say mantras. I am creating space for change. You maybe are not fully creating that space right now, but you're saying it to help yourself be in that mindset. And mindset's so important to get yourself to where you're actually taking action. So mindset, that affects your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all connected. So, sometimes we feel like the feelings come first, but really there was some thought there that caused the feeling. And then the behavior comes out of all of that. So I'm saying I am brave. I'm looking to God. I am knowledgeable. I am mature. I'm also able to look inward at my feelings, be brave, and to show up for being a safe space for myself and for my child. So I can say all those things, even if I'm not fully feeling it in the moment, because I believe those to be true, and they will become more and more true the more I step into this aspect of who I am. All right. Um, we are almost at the 12:30 mark, but I'm going to go a little bit longer to take this a step further. So I want to encourage you I went on a lot of topics there, but this is just an example of how taking that time consistently and learning to tap into your intuition in this process, and just really taking the reflective writing process seriously as well, that you can get some big insights and a real sense of healing, in the moment, that over time it adds up to bigger and bigger healing the more that we do this work. So, okay, so there's that, to take this sort of mid-sized time. And then I want to talk about the importance of taking bigger chunks of time to give yourself that space. And I almost use the word rest just now. I don't want to use the word rest because that can mean a lot of different things. I like this idea of creating space in your life, in your emotions, in your mind. And usually that means setting aside time. And so a bigger chunk of time. And so I want to encourage you to think about how you could take a day. Most of a day, I am moving towards, I'm not quite there yet, but I think from now on I can do this once a month, but I'm changing a lot of things about my schedule that are going to take a few months to get in place. But I think something I can go ahead and continue to implement is one day per month on a Monday, usually for me works good. During what would normally be my work day, about a 6 to 7 hour chunk, to take that time to go somewhere physically away from my home, away from this art studio. My daughter's in school, and to just create some space. And I found, so I did this past, actually I had to do it Tuesday. My daughter was sick Monday. That was my birthday. I wanted to do it on my birthday on Monday, but she was getting over a cold. I stayed home with her and I was able to do this Tuesday. So I drove just about 45 minutes outside of Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm located, to Frankfort. And that is where my mother and my grandmother and 2 generations before that are buried at a cemetery there, the Frankfurt Cemetery. And I don't visit the cemetery often. I'm not that type of person who feels like I need to go there. But I find as I have more distance from my mother's death, that is more meaningful to me for some reason. A whole other topic. But so when I got there, what I found was not only was it meaningful for me to be there to see her grave, to cry and just continue to feel those feelings of mourning, the grief that come up more this time of year, which is totally normal to have that. Not only to feel those feelings, but I realized the fact that it's 45 minutes away was important for me. And I'm not saying you have to drive that far away from your home to have this bigger amount of space, but I think enough away from just your normal day to day that it feels separate and it feels like you're not going to get sucked into whatever your normal schedule or routine is, right? So, my daughter had just been out sick the day before. There was a question in my mind of whether she was coughing a little. I thought they might call me to pick her up. And I thought, well, I'm still going to go to Frankfurt. And, if they call me, if I have to go pick her up early, then it'll just be at least 45 minutes to an hour before I can pick her up at minimum. And that's just how it's going to have to be. And so that I felt a little bit worried as a mother making that decision, but I decided to do it. And in the end, it was really good because I knew no matter what called my attention back at home, I couldn't get there immediately. And so I don't know, that just created more space in my mind and in my emotions to really be present with what I wanted to do here at the cemetery. And what I wanted to do was to spend some time journaling. So I brought my journal. I also, there's a regular email sort of devotional that I get that has, it's weekly and it has a lot of questions to answer. And I thought, oh, I got that email this morning. Maybe I'll sit and journal about those questions. Maybe I'll write something else. I ended up going through those questions. And at first, so again, trust your intuition with this too. You can have a loose plan of where you're going to go, to a park, to a, wherever. It doesn't have to be outdoors. That's something that was kind of my goal for this day, was to be outdoors. I decided kind of last minute I did want to go to the cemetery. And at first I thought I was gonna sit by my mother's grave to do my journaling. Then for some reason I thought, no, I want to sit in my car. And that turned out to be a good experience. So that's why I have this picture of in my car, if you're wondering, as I'm sitting here talking. This was my view from the car, and her grave, my family's plot, is a little bit down just a slight hill, a little bit below where this little tree is. And I found that to sit and do my journaling, that was the most comfortable place for me. It was like I was still there in this pretty quiet place. There were a few people walking around, but not many people there. It's up on this beautiful hill here. This is kind of to the left, straight ahead from where I was sitting, whereas she's to the right. But this overlooks the Kentucky's Capitol building. Frankfort's the capital of Kentucky, so you can see the Capitol building there. Later on this fall, there will be beautiful colors on these trees. So it's a beautiful spot to sit, although heavy, emotionally, because it's a cemetery. But so I felt like the car was a safe place to sit. So I kind of abandoned that initial plan and just went with what felt good. And it felt really good for me to sit there in the car for a long time. I journaled and I cried for a long time. After stepping out first to view the grave. Then I decided I needed to go to the bathroom. There is not a bathroom close. That was kind of a wild goose chase, finding a place to use the restroom. But I decided I wanted to do that and then come back. So I did that. I came back, I ate a lunch that I had packed, and I walked around more and went back and actually sat in front of the grave. So all this to say, that was a very good experience for me, to the point where I want to schedule it monthly, whether I go here or to a park that's in town. I'm probably not going to choose one of my go-to parks that is closer to my house. Again, that distance, maybe just on the other side of town, or a new park I haven't been to before. I think being in either a totally new place or a place that is physically distant from our regular life is helpful in creating this space. So I want to challenge you to think about what's something that you can do. You don't have to schedule it out monthly right now, but what is something you can do once, maybe over the course of the next few weeks. You could schedule a day or a few hours on a Saturday morning, whatever it is, a good length of time where you could plan a place to go. Take a journal, take your art materials if you want, take a book, like I had the devotional that was on an email, but something that's going to encourage reflection. It could be taking your phone and viewing one of the Redefined Process sessions and doing that in this place. All right. But I want to encourage you, if there's something you're consuming, like listening to music or a podcast or a program like mine or something else, or something that a book that you're reading, if you're consuming some type of content or information, have it be something that is for the purpose of helping you create this emotional and mental space. So music that does that for you, content that's going to prompt you to answer questions, to really reflect. Like the devotional wasn't just something I was reading, it was something that had questions, and I spent most of my time writing versus the reading. Okay, so choose something to do that's going to help you create that space in a place where you can do that and be enough away from your regular life where that feels almost like a mini vacation. This was 45 minutes away, and it felt like I went on a little road trip by myself. I packed my lunch, like I found a really junky, dirty gas station to go use the bathroom. That was a bit of an adventure. Drove around the cute little downtown Frankfort. It's a small town. It felt like I went on a little road trip for a few hours. altogether, it was a 4-hour adventure, the time that I spent driving there and the time there and the time riding back. And got home just in time to pick my daughter up from school. She didn't even know where I went for the day. I didn't even tell her. She thought I went here to work. And I did talk to my sister a little bit about where I went, but it was time for me to reflect. And so as I am continuing to practice the redefined process in the sense of digging into redefining my identity more and more, getting more in touch with who I am, it's something that I want to continue to share with you all in real time. And this is important to me that I practice what I preach here. And so I wanted to just share that experience with you. And again, challenge you to create space in mid-size, well, small. We want to create the time in small chunks if we can, hopefully daily, 5 to 10 minutes to yourself, meditating, drawing, writing, whatever that is, taking a walk. Mid-sized chunks of time, like doing the redefined process content or something similar. And then I want to encourage you to think of some day coming up over the next month or two, maybe before the holiday season, before things get extra busy, where you can take a larger chunk of time, like a few hours, to get physically away, to get more emotional distance, and to create that emotional space to physical activities are great for this. Yoga, walking, if you're a runner. I'm not a runner, but if you are, more power to you. Those things can create a sense of physical space in our body as well. I really love yoga for that. But so it could be that you go take a yoga class or go participate in a hike, and maybe spend some time reflecting before and after that. You could attend a group hike if you don't want to do something totally by yourself, and plan some time to journal and reflect on your feelings before you do it and then after you do it. So there's so many different ways you can do this, but I just wanted to share an example of how I am doing that and showing up for myself and creating that space for myself this month, especially in a month that's kind of hard emotionally. So I will see you all back here next week. I promise I'll be more active in the chat and communicating this coming week. It's just been, as you can tell, a heavy emotional week for me. It was also my daughter's birthday the day before mine. And the anniversary of my mom's death was a week ago. It's on the 11th. So a lot of things for me, and I'm coming out of that now and able to share some insight from that. And so I'll be chatting with you guys more in the chat this coming week. All right.